A severe storm is tearing through this village today, exposing a brutal divide in how these birds live. On one side, a large, fortified nest withstands the rain easily. On the other, a fragile home is entirely exposed to the elements. Inside that fortified nest lives Fulin, a crow with a massive surplus of luxury food. While the rest of the village starves in the rain, she sits indoors eating hot, spicy pakoras and actively mocking those without. When Pinku, a young bird from the fragile nest, politely asks to borrow a single pinch of salt, Fulin turns him away. She insults his father's inability to provide, sending the child back out into the storm humiliated. This scale shows the logic Fulin uses to maintain her status. She views wealth as a finite pie. For her to stay elevated, her neighbors must be pushed down. In her world, another bird's gain is her personal loss. Her cruelty is a calculated strategy. By keeping her neighbors at the absolute bottom, she ensures her own relative advantage remains unchallenged. Seeing his son cry pushes Lalin, Pinku's father, to his breaking point. He flies out into the flooded market, determined to buy the ingredients for a decent meal. But the local economy has collapsed. Severe supply shortages from the storm have caused prices to skyrocket. Basic vegetables are now priced at a level that Lalin's stagnant wages can't possibly reach. Exhausted, Lalin drops his last few coins into the mud. Completely broke, he decides to sell his family's ancestral land to a wealthy neighbor, just to afford a single respectful meal for his son. This is how the cycle of poverty tightens. To secure a few hours of dignity and a single meal, Lalin is forced to liquidate the only long-term asset that could have eventually provided him with real security. Defeated, Lalin takes shelter under a dying tree. He notices the roots are dangerously exposed to the storm, and he chooses to spend his last bit of physical energy packing wet mud over them to save the tree. This is a moment of extreme vulnerability. Lalin is choosing to help another living thing even when his own survival is actively at risk. The tree reveals itself to be sentient and rewards Lalin's kindness. It gives him a magical wooden basket capable of producing an infinite supply of food. As this flowchart illustrates, the gift has a built-in constraint. The infinite wealth the basket generates is only sustainable if it is routed through this distribution gateway. It works as long as it is shared. Lalin returns home and conjures a massive spread of food, finally providing the comfort his son was denied earlier. But Lalin doesn't stop there. Instead of using the basket to elevate himself above the other birds, he opens his doors and invites the entire starving village to a feast. This map shows the village's transformation. By pushing resources outward, Lalin turns isolated families into a connected network. These connections thicken into a reinforced outer ring. Because Lalin shared his windfall, the entire village now has a strong safety net. Security in this village is now found in the movement of resources. The more these goods circulate from nest to nest, the more resilient the entire community becomes against the elements. Fulin smells the feast and sneaks into Lalin's house, hoping to steal a plate of conjured sweets and keep them for herself. The magic reacts poorly to her attempt to privatize the food. The stolen sweets instantly glue themselves to her feathers, trapping her in place. Lalin's family finds her, but they don't seek revenge. They simply forgive her and invite her to eat as an equal, showing that their new way of living doesn't rely on holding grudges. Fulin's husband, Bandu, refuses to learn. He breaks into Lalin's home in the middle of the night to steal the magic basket itself, hoping to control the entire supply. Bandu is trying to take an infinite communal resource and turn it back into a private prize, reverting to the exact mindset that caused the village's suffering in the first place. When Bandu demands luxury goods, the basket triggers a defensive response. Instead of food, a swarm of aggressive frogs leaps out to protect the gift. The frogs chase the crow out into the storm, leaving him exhausted and empty-handed. Meanwhile, Lalin's home has become the village hub. Despite the rain still pouring outside, the house is warm, safe, and filled with well-fed neighbors. The contrast between these two paths is clear. On the left, the effort to hoard resources led to isolation and loss. On the right, the decision to circulate wealth created a stable, thriving community. This story suggests that the strength of a community isn't found in how much any one member can save, but in the willingness of each member to ensure that no one is left behind in the storm.